6. We're going a little bit out of order here.
Okay.
26, tab 6.
Tab 6, and I go to ZBA, Design Social Fields.
That's the first thing.
Conservation should be first.
Well, in mine books, ZBA's first.
I set you up, so.
What's that?
I set you up, I opened yours up. I
Okay. Oh, okay. Thank you. All right, Mark, are we all set? Okay, we're on? I guess we're on.
Okay. I'm rolling.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back. Afternoon session of the joint meeting here of Finance Committee and Board of Selectmen and our town departments and committee heads and so on. So if you want to introduce yourself and what you're going to be speaking to, and then we'll go to it.
I am Shelley Cobley. I'm the business administrator for the Building Department, Zoning Board, and Board of Health. So I'll be doing those 3 departments.
Okay. So start with ZBA. Okay.
So the ZBA is essentially the same as last year. Basically, our only expenses are postage and office supplies for the mailings out to the abutters, and some training sessions for the members. The income is derived from the fees of the petitioners, and all is through general fund, and the petitioners pay the advertising costs to the newspaper. So there's very few expenses for that, so it's just the same as
Okay.
last year.
All right. Anybody have any questions on that?
Okay. So Board of Health is, general expenses remain the same as last year. Primarily, the expenses are office supplies, postage, and member training. The increases in the expenses this year were for the, for Neshoba Board of Health, for the health agent, and for the nursing services. And there were no final numbers yet, but those are just anticipated to increase. We had gotten a memo from Neshoba a couple months ago that those numbers were anticipated to increase. So those numbers have been adjusted for that potential increase. But other than that,
Regarding Neshoba, if I could, that Littleton is part of that 14-town district where we procure just whatever health agent services we need. It's not a full-time position, it's just some number of hours per week. Met with our health agent, Jim Gareffi. He has, that Neshoba Associated Boards of Health, along with some other regional entities in the Commonwealth, are under review right now for whether they're carrying their fair share of pension costs for the employer. It actually came out of, that review came out of an unhappy experience we had at the Montechusett Regional Transit Authority, which Littleton is part of, and where the executive director there was not only having a full retirement pension, but was also getting paid full-time for working full-time post-retirement. And he's on the hook now to repay $700,000 in retirement benefits. But it caused the state to look at all of the regional entities. Neshoba is included. Their most recent word is that there's been the legislature set up a commission to look at what the impact would be on authorities. It's at the end of the day, it may mean that anyone who is procuring services or is part of a region is going to have to start covering the employer costs, because right now it's only the employee costs that are paid by the employee. There's no employer share, and arguably the law says that there should be. So there's no impact that we know of yet, but it may be an issue that comes up in the future. Just so you know.
Okay.
Excuse me, and the jump from 22,000 to 27 for the Neshoba Board of Health is anticipated fee increases or increased activity?
It's an increase in the assessment cost to the town, so it's just an estimate. We're not sure exactly what it would be. It could be 24, or it could be 30. I just wanted to put it in there as an estimate. We haven't received the number.
So these are the benefits that Keith was just referring to. That is the increase.
So we anticipate the fees brought into the town to be about the same as last year. There'll be an increase in the number, especially of food service permits for all the restaurants that are coming through at the point, and septic system permit applications. There's a couple subdivisions coming through, but the largest project right now that's going on is 15 Great Road, and that's on a wastewater treatment facility, so that doesn't generate any permit fees for the town, because that's a DEP permit. So most of the income generated from the board is for tobacco permits, septic permits, and stable permits.
Okay. Building?
It's been very busy, making lots of money. The changes in the budget this year are just a shift in showing the electrical inspector and the gas and plumbing inspector are now listed under the salary for the building department, so that's the large increase in that number. They had previously been under the building revolving fund, and so now they're just coming out of the salaries fund. So Bonnie had done a spreadsheet sort of breaking that all out. The numbers are essentially the same as last year. We anticipate next year to be as busy as this year. So far, the building department's brought in over, just on building permits, $600,000. And gas, plumbing, and electric are equally as busy. So it's been a very busy year in the building department. The expenses pretty much remain the same, basically just office supplies. We'll be needing to order some new code books because they'll be adopting the stretch code on January 1st, so there'll be some expenses for new code books. But other than that, the expenses generally will be about the same as last year.
Any questions, anybody?
Yep. I know that, aren't we using Gabe from here to help out on some of the permits?
Yes, so the alternate building inspector has been doing the inspections at 15 Great Road, the single-family houses. Roland had done all the inspections on the apartments, and Gabe is doing the single-family houses, because Roland has been...
Well, Ryan's not, but I mean,
Yes.
he's in the button.
He's listed in here under the, in the building revolving account, under building other expense. So the alternates are still come through the building revolving account. The gas, electric, and building alternates are still in that, into that account.
They're not part of a permanent increase in staff, it's just they are called as needed, and when there's a project in the revenue covered that's beyond what we can do with our permanent staff.
I think it's good to tell this part of the salary, and then you can see what's going on. Okay, anybody else? All right, thank you very much. You're welcome. Who's going next?
I think I am.
No, Pam.
No, Eleanor.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, you're close.
Actually, just as well. Hoping a couple of my other members will
Oh,
be
okay.
here. And
All
I'd
right.
like them to be here.
So you're going to tab 15.
15.
15.
15. 15.
Afternoon, everyone. Pamela Campbell, Director, Elder and Human Services, Council on Aging. So nice to see everyone here. I'd like to start just by thanking all of you for the focus that I know that you're putting on the elders in the community and the help that you've given me over the last year for my department in general. I definitely am grateful for that, and I recognize that. Having said that, however, we're in the position where we have a lot of need. We did the needs assessment, which actually had very little in terms of surprises other than degree. Some areas that we found were really, really much more needy than we ever would have guessed. I know the board all got copies of this. Anybody on FinCom who wants a copy, you can contact me. It is available on the town website. It's a lengthy report, but it's full of a lot of data, and you're going to see me over the next couple of years carrying this around a lot because it gives us a real backup for what we're asking for. And when I talk about things like degree, this assessment, we asked people 50 and up to fill out because we were really looking at that critical 50 to 60 age group that's going to become our elders, but right now they have a lot of needs themselves. John alludes a little bit to that when he was talking about the veterans, because they're coming in increasing numbers under 60 with need. So we sent that out, and in that age group, 49% said that they were caring for someone in the home, and 80% said that it was either somewhat or very challenging to handle. And so I looked at that for a little bit, and I thought, well, let's turn that into numbers. So I looked at the number of people who responded, and I ran it out, and that turns out to be about 157 people in town that are caring for someone in the home, find it very challenging. And where that loops back to me is that we provide outreach, and you generously bumped outreach from 30 hours to 40 hours, but we still are really much in self-identification mode. People come to us and they say they need help. We don't see 157 people that are in dire straits, and these people are saying that they are in dire straits. So this is a huge need that we still have to be able to really do the outreach piece, to reach out and touch people, these vulnerable populations, which would be the caregivers, obviously, but also those the over 80s, the people who are food insecure. Hard to reach some of these people. So that's a big need. I put this crib sheet together to let you see what I'm focusing on a daily basis in Elder and Human Services. Can we skip over transportation for a minute? I just talked a little bit about outreach. The nutrition program is really important. Meals on Wheels is huge. We do probably 25 Meals on Wheels every single day, very much supported by senior tax workers and volunteers. Tax relief, the senior tax work-off program is important. We just got the TREAD program in place, but senior tax work-off benefit keeps going down because the minimum wage has been going up. So now we're down to I think the benefit for this year is going to be $560. And the first year that I did the program, it was $632. So that's a shrinking amount that's available to people. And in return for that, the town gets a tremendous amount of benefit. We do a lot of wellness and we do a lot of health things, and now I come back to transportation. None of this works if people can't get to us or get to what they need. We talk about healthy aging, we talk about living well. You've got to get to your doctor for preventive care, you've got to get to treatments. We take a lot of people down for dialysis. You need to get to the grocery, you need to get to the pharmacy, and then it all comes back to transportation as the invisible piece that holds everything up. And for the caregivers, we offer a caregiver support group, we offer our pre-dementia group, but that wouldn't work if we weren't able to offer transportation to these families. So I put together my budget, and in my my wish list, my mission budget, I'd like to ask you for an outreach person. I thought about a half-time person, and I actually put that in my request, but in reality, a full-time position would be much easier to fill with a dedicated person. If you get a half-time person, you're either splitting them with another town, or you run the risk of them going off for a full-time job. That person could hit the ground running immediately and be absolutely busy for 40 hours. We have our caregiver group. We'd like to do that more often. We only can meet once a month now. That's an evening group. The dementia group is now meeting 3 days a week, full, but there's a lot of back end on that of meeting with families and making sure that the right people get in, and again, outreach, real outreach to these vulnerable populations that are out there. Support groups are becoming increasingly popular for us. We have our social anxiety support group, caregivers I've mentioned, our Living Alone and Living Well group, and again, with more presence to make those things happen, we could also now start branching out into some more social media stuff and capture the eyes and the ears of people, and I still hear from people over and over, I didn't know you did that. I didn't know you offered that. This year, twice, we sent the broadcaster to every home in town. I'd like to start doing that on a regular basis, like 4 times a year. So part of my wish list is a little bit more money for postage to cover that. The Friends can cover a good portion of that. They had a donation, but they can't cover it completely. So that's what I want. And to make all this work, I need some help with transportation. So Mark gives me $68,000 a year. We spend it. 2 vans are out there every day, usually 23, 25 runs a day. 1 day a week, we go to either Boston or to Leahy, and we always have at least one person and usually multiple people that need to make that ride. But $68,000 means that's all I can do. I can do 10 shifts, and I can keep 2 vans going. I would really like to put a 3rd van on half-time for that 10 to 2 period that's very, very busy when people have appointments and they want to get to the grocery and what have you. Bonnie and I have talked about this, and it is not to our advantage at all to ask Mart to give us any additional money. We will wind up just paying for that.
We'll pay more.
We'll pay more, right, because we'll pay their overhead and we'll pay dollar for dollar. So I'd like to ask you for a half-time position as a van driver. And that's the end of my wish list.
Do you have the van?
What is the number?
I'm working on the van. We have a transportation appeal going on right now, and I just received a very generous gift of $10,000 from someone in town who was using our van on a very regular basis, and then her husband was placed. I think I'll be able to get myself a van by the time July would come around. And what I'd really love to do is I'd love to get a green vehicle and fit in with the new green program. Fred, did you ask any question? No. But I'd love to get a green vehicle, electric, hybrid, something we could plug in at Light and Water. Carlisle has a Nissan Rogue as their 3rd vehicle, or their 2nd vehicle. They only have 1 van. And they use it for ambulatory people. It's great for people with bad driveways, and we have a few of those. Wonderful in the wintertime, and perfect for taking people, just around for short trips.
So Keith, part of the whole transportation thing with the train station and all that, there's some buses possibly coming around. Is that true? Does that impact, are you involved with all that? Does this all fit together somehow?
It doesn't fit together as neatly as you'd like, because right now there's no commitment of COA vans to be made available for the general public.
Right.
And so that it may move to that point at some, in the future, but we're not there.
I guess my question the other way was.
That was the other way.
Right.
Does anything that you're doing
Yeah.
fit that? Because those would be more fixed route, and we don't have, you're not going to have buses running up and down every street in town.
That there will certainly be a rollout of some kind of either fixed route service or some kind of shuttles that are going to places now where they don't go. And that would be an opportunity for anyone, including seniors, to make use of those additional vehicles or those additional services. That we're looking at, for example, connecting the train station in Littleton with employment centers in Westford, Devons, and Foxborough, as well as Littleton Common. We're looking at ways to provide service to and from the point. And how that all shakes out, we have a framework for figuring it out, and we have the assistance and the attention of Mass DOT to work with us and to work with the Montechusett and Lowell Regional Transit Authorities to figure out who would do what, and then what's the funding mechanism to pay for it. So the hope is that those additional services will benefit everyone,
Everyone, right.
including seniors,
Yep.
when they're on line, but we're not
The
quite there
timeline
yet.
for that is quite a
Yeah,
ways
and
out yet?
One of the issues that we are looking at that affects seniors and COA vans is, one of the issues that Mart has presented to us from time to time is that because the funding structures and reimbursement for various regional transit authority programs come from peculiar sources, that they're kind of protective of if you're using them to serve a different group. So it gets as odd as, well, we're sending a shuttle, Littleton, which is in the Mart Regional Transit Authority, sends a shuttle to Emerson Hospital, to Concord Emerson Hospital. And we've got someone from Littleton on it, but right now we can't stop in Acton, which is in the Lowell RTA, and pick them up and maybe save a trip. So one of our things that we've got in our community compact with Baker Polito administration is to have Mass DOT convene us and Mart and Lowell RTA to work through those bureaucratic hurdles, because they're just silly. And the hope would be that that would expand the opportunity.
Right.
We have a central dispatch right now for the COA shuttles that's shared, that it's, Acton and Boxborough and Littleton share a central dispatch that's provided through the Crosstown Connect Transportation Management Association. But we're not sharing the fleets. There's no commingling of the fleets yet, but we would hope to be able to do that when we can, work through the.
And fixed route will not help us a whole lot, because we really are a door-to-door
Yeah,
population.
I understand that.
They have special needs.
Yeah.
I am going to try some grant funding for the van end of things. But what I'm finding consistently whenever I go out to talk about grant funding for transportation, they want to pay operational. They'll talk about buying me a van, but they don't even want to talk about paying for the cost of the driver. So that's a real limiting factor right now. Other questions?
I have a question. Looking at your management summary, on the second page, the following first paragraph, you mentioned we're a gateway for those in need to obtain services, and we operate under a no wrong door policy.
That's what we're trying to do, yes.
And I said to myself, okay, what's a no wrong door policy?
A no wrong door policy means that when people show up and they give us a call, we do our utmost to help them through the entire process. So if somebody comes to us and says, I want food stamps, we don't just give them a phone number. Tina will work with that person to do what they need to do to get food stamps. Again, our population is challenged. They have trouble often pulling things together. We literally will fax things, stand there and fax things for people because they don't know how to use a fax machine, or they're flummoxed by it. So we try to take everything that comes through the door and deal with it and make sure that it goes completely to completion, and not just call these people and go see someone else.
You refer and assist.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, I should mention about 15 Great Road. I think we all thought about police and fire and, of course, building permits and all that, which will go away. In the last month, we've had 6 different families come to us from there with a variety of needs, ranging from fuel assistance, because the people in the apartments have to pay their own utilities, through a grandmother who has custody of grandkids, And what we've discovered is that SMOC runs its own subsidy program for housing. And some of the people that are going into Great Road in the affordable units are their incomes are really quite low, and they're being subsidized by the fuel assistance program out of the state. You know, normally the subsidies for the housing come from housing authorities, but they have their own set of subsidies that they're working on. And it comes with, yes, we'll give you fuel assistance, and oh, by the way, here's Tina Mater's phone number. So we're already seeing quite a pickup in that. And for the people who are more financially secure in that area, everybody wants transportation. Not just those that are low income, but those that are above also need transportation. Current state estimates are that men will outlive their ability to drive by 7 years and women by 10. And let's face it, people's kids don't take them the way they used to. Their kids may not even be in town, not even in the state.
But, I mean,
And they
kind of
call
the
us.
first response is, why do they move there if they can't drive? I mean, Littleton's not the place to be if you can't drive, right?
They can't, but they age in place.
If that's the
And
case,
they
but
can't
these are all new
afford to
people, I
move
mean,
out.
if they've stayed in Littleton, but if they move from someplace else, and, I mean, it's just kind of like, well,
But even before 15 Great
Yeah,
Road
okay.
opened,
Yeah,
we were doing more than
that's- I
500
understand that,
rides
right.
a month. Just because of what Fred's saying, the aging in place factor.
that's a different story.
Again, in here, lots of people who'd been here a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and a huge percentage that said they wanted to stay in Littleton.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People like Littleton.
Yeah.
Is the van run that goes into Boston, is that cost-effective for you? Because I know if you take the van into Boston for a VA run or a Leahy run, it's pretty much tied up most of the day.
It is tied up the entire
So
day, right.
that's all
That's
the local
part of my
things you couldn't
problem.
do.
Right. That means essentially I have one van for that day to run around and get everybody to the lunch program and any doctor's appointments that are local, and, oh, by the way, I need to get to Donlands, and I've got to swing by the pharmacy. Right. Yeah, that's definitely a
Would
problem.
you rather not do that?
Rather not go to Boston?
Yeah.
I've tried everything I can think of to get around it, and there just isn't any way to do it. We have these fantastic hospitals that are just, 25 miles away. Granted, people aren't going on an urgent basis, but if they're going for a reason. They really need that kind of care.
It seems like it's not cost-effective in terms of providing service within Littleton to have a van gone for the entire day.
Yeah. That's why we just do it one day a week. And first and third Fridays are Boston, and second and fourth are Leahy. Or Bedford, VA, and when I say Boston, I mean the whole range there.
How many riders do you typically have on that bus?
I can't remember the last time I had a Friday when I didn't have at least one rider. Sometimes there's two, sometimes even three. And the other issue about, the reason I was asking for the half-time driver and another bus, is people have a lot of wait time involved. As we get busier, I can't store up those nighttime hours to be used during the day. Nobody wants to go to a doctor's appointment at 11 p.m. So people wind up having to go earlier, wait longer, and my number of declined rides, of denied service, keeps climbing. And now it's up to between 12 and 15 a month of people that we have to turn away. About 53% of our rides are medical, and we're reaching the point in the last 2 months where we're now starting to have to turn away medical requests because there's nobody that we can bump. If somebody's going to the beauty shop or going, to play bingo or something like that, we just tell them, I'm sorry, you're going to have to get a ride with someone or you're not going to be able to do that. But when it's 2 medical appointments head-to-head, that's when I feel really bad that somebody doesn't get taken somewhere. But 4 days a week, those 2 vans are out there and they are busy.
And this is all provided at no charge, correct? I mean.
No, they do
They do,
pay.
they do
Yeah,
pay, okay.
there is a charge.
Okay.
However, for every dollar that I collect,
Mm-hmm.
Mart reduces it from from the amount that they will reimburse me, so it's a zero-sum game. Yeah, somebody suggested to me, oh, you should just charge more to go to Boston. It's like,
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the alternatives for people are pricey.
Oh, yeah.
There are 2 new services in town, well, close to town. One's in Air and the other one's in Westford. $30 round trip to Emerson, $100 Mass General. And we just have a lot of people that just can't come anywhere close to affording that. You know, we charge $7 for a trip to the Boston hospitals.
So the difference between your level staffing budget and your mission budget is $65,000 in salaries. So what is that $65,000?
That'd be the full-time outreach worker, which needs to be a professional position, so I just graded it in as the same level as my current outreach worker, who's a licensed social worker. And then the half-time driver
Okay, the
would be at a
driver's in
rate
there,
of
okay.
around $14 an hour. The new schedule starts at $14.14 an hour.
Okay.
That, I have a lot more leeway on what I can
And that's
get for that.
about 20 hours a week?
Yeah, 19.5. No benefits. 19.5.
Where are you going to put this new worker, in the hallway?
In the van.
That's the next thing. I've got from now until July to figure out where I'm going to shoehorn her in. I'd probably have to put her in the Shine office, which means I'd have to shoehorn the Shine guy probably into the Veterans office. Luckily, he comes on Wednesdays, which is a day that John's not around.
He's asking for more hours too, though.
I know, we're just going to have to jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. I got my eye on Indian Hill. Any other questions? And, you know, anything that comes up, you know where to find me. I love to talk to people about all this stuff. And this,
Yeah, that,
This is great.
I think, for you, Paul, anybody that's working on the master plan, I think there's a lot of good data in there that can be gleaned towards the master plan, if, you know, if those numbers are even close to being accurate.
Did we include that, Myron? It is. We included a list of reports, documents from various outfits that the people who were bidding on the master plan consultant job, and that was one of the, Myron, that we included, so, yeah.
But it wouldn't hurt for your committee to actually review it, because it really is a very thoughtfully done report.
That's not a bad idea. We just are in the process of reviewing the actual old master plan, but all these other reports certainly feed
It's,
into it.
you know, going forward.
I finished
think
reading
should
it.
some-
I'm on the master plan. There we go. We got one.
and this population is going up, you know, 10,000 people, 10,000 boomers are turning 65 every day in the country. There's no school choice to option out of the Littleton COA. There are people. And again, I thank you for the focus that you're putting on this. I'm glad you recognize the need.
We're not getting any younger.
It is a switch, though, and I think it's for a lot of us. I mean, it's a, you know, the schools are there, and they've been there, and they put a lot more social programs in. It took a lot of us, you know, oh, that wasn't like when I was in school. And I think this is the same thing. We're going to have to kind of wrestle with this and get used to this idea and understand this. This is going to be a new part of the fabric of what everything does. And
We need to concentrate on that. We need to do, as Pam said, whatever we can do within our resources to help people age in place, which is what they would like to
exactly.
do.
Yep.
That's really what they want.
Because downsizing in Littleton and then moving to something smaller in Littleton, that's not an option.
It doesn't exist.
Because there is nothing smaller in Littleton.
Right.
So, you have no rental units or condos you can move into if you downsize out of your big house. So you lose those people, friends, neighbors, and they're gone someplace else.
People want to keep that social structure.
Really important.
And now we're back to the transportation piece again, because in Littleton, they're isolated if they can't get around. And one of the scary numbers out of this is that 38% of the people over 65 are living on less than $25,000 a year in Littleton. And that's not numbers that came out of the survey, that's numbers that they pulled from the census report.
But is that just like Social Security income, or does that include some of their interest and their savings and all those kind of, I mean, that's where it kind of gets hard to understand, what does that mean, right? You saved your whole life, and part of that is your income, right?
Those are census figures, and they're pretty confident that that really represents people's income. I know Tina sees people that when they come in the door, she can't understand how they are getting by. There is no savings.
Right,
There is no
none,
income
okay.
from anything,
Yeah, there's
no
nothing else, it's just
401Ks
that.
or anything tucked away. They're on Social Security, they've got food stamps, they're getting fuel assistance. They're not doing any maintenance in their homes. They can't get out, and they don't want to get out. They want to stay in their homes as long as they possibly can,
And they see nothing but property taxes going up.
unfortunately. And I think next year when I come back, we're going to have to talk more about the Sudbury option and try to find some way for those really low-income people to limit their property taxes that they pay by spreading it out amongst the rest of us. Sudbury was doing it with 1% added on to people's tax bills. It's a sales job. We have to convince people to do that. But this year, we're going to do TREAD, get people to donate.
That'll be an interesting discussion.
It's going to be a real interesting discussion, I know. That's why I'm warming you up, giving you a whole year to think about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
19.
Song for that one, too.
Good afternoon.
Don?
Good afternoon. It's very, very pleased to be here. This is the first time I've appeared as the chair, and been chair since July 1st. I thank everybody who's helped in one way or another. Steve, when we talked on before this, and Bonnie has been fantastic in sort of helping me sort of figure out what I can do and what I can't do and how I do it and so on. It's not easy when you come into something and we're all amateurs. I'd like to also introduce our two, Andrew Watt and Diane Decker, two of our newest members who have joined me here, and I thought it would be great for them to get some sense of what we do and how we do this. We're obviously one of your smaller, what shall we say?
Line items?
Line items. We don't draw on so much on you. I remember one of the times I came here when I was vice chair, and before me was the light and water department or something, and here they had millions and millions of dollars they were talking about, and then we had our $700 budget. So I don't want to take up too much of your time, because I know you have a lot of much bigger things. But I would say that, we are seeing if our role as defined here is to preserve and maintain the unique history of Littleton, with the enormous, I think just in the last few years, we've seen enormous development in Littleton. We're seeing lots and lots of new buildings and so on, which in a lot of ways is great, but it also puts in danger some of the existing resources that we have. And I think whenever we've asked townspeople what they like about Littleton, one thing they say is open space, but right next to that is the historic character of the town. And so we see that as our job to protect it. And more we're seeing, we're having to look at proposals for demolition and what we do about that. Sometimes we feel there's nothing much we can do, and it really, we have to sort of prioritize, as everyone does, what really is important. But we have a number of properties now that are under threat. And so that's one of our issues. And we have Well, our big project right now, but this isn't specifically sort of related to our regular budget, is our efforts to, let's say, reconstruct, to reassemble the Long Store, which we were able, thanks to a donation, we were able to save, not in the way we would have liked to have saved it, that is, as an intact structure, but we took it apart, we have the pieces stored, again, thanks to a very generous help from Mr. McNiff of Hunter Appliances. We have a trailer, and we have the pieces in there, and we've got a report now, which is just about to appear, on how to preserve, reconstruct it. One of the problems is that it's turned out that what we thought was going to be a relatively doable amount, according to the report, seems to be a lot bigger than what we anticipated. I mean, can I say this? You know, we figured $200,000 to $300,000, and the architect's report turned out to be something more like $1 million. And so we're not sure where to go next. I know I'm not specifically the head of that part of the project. Linda Stein is working on that with our architect. And I don't know, we certainly, if any of you have any suggestions, I know Linda also deals with people I mean, she has worked with, some of you are on the Permanent Municipal Building Commission. I know Linda has dealt with some of you there, and, you know, certainly if we can get any help from that. That, of course, whatever we spend would come out of the CPA funding, so that's not directly your bailiwick, but that's been our really big project. But then we have, on a regular basis, other things that come up, and again, I would mention one of them is this very interesting stone cellar or chamber, or nobody's quite sure what it is, on Whitcomb Avenue. Was probably used for putting cans of milk, because it's in an area which is, right across the street from it is this, what was at one time a very large dairy farm, and so it's probably used for keeping milk when people would then take it to the train station or something. It's a very, very nicely built, dry stone chamber, which when the Highway Department was repairing Whitcomb Avenue, they recognized was not doing so, was in sort of poor shape. So Jim Clyde has come to us a couple of times saying, you got to get something done about this, and he very well had some of his people, I mean, I really appreciate this, he had some of his people put a very solid piece of wood, plywood over it, so you can't get in, and that protects it some, but it's kind of falling. One part of it looks like it could well fall down, so we're working on getting that rebuilt, and we've got, with the help of Bonnie, we've got some. It looks like we'll be able to do that before the winter comes, when we hope that's not a big extent. So we have constantly some of these kinds of things that come up. And I guess you suggested, I know the last time I spoke with people, it was Paul and Betsy, and I think your suggestion was that when they arise, we ask for them, and usually they're not too large, and we can get a fund transfer or something like that to deal with that. But we'd like to put in our for our regular maintenance budget, I think we're asking for the same amount that we've had, but we're also asking for a capital funding to complete the survey of the Littleton Historic Resources. Apparently, and again, it's hard, and this is something that I've been talking about with various people, keeping sort of records of what was done 15, 20 years ago, when there's nobody still on the commission who was around then. one of the tasks of every historical commission in the state of Massachusetts is to do a survey of the town's historic resources, or city's historic resources. And I guess Littleton completed about half of this back in the late 90s. I think it was 97 maybe that this was finished. But this was half of the project. Somehow they recognized within that they didn't have the money to do the whole thing, and then somehow nobody picked it up after that. So we'd like to finish that, and so we're asking for, in capital appropriations, we're asking for what seems to be a reasonable amount, $10,000 to complete that. It seems that back in the late 90s, they paid about, this was what I was told by,
John Hathaway, Ron Goddard, we got
yeah, but it was John,
Ledger?
no, John, oh, God. John and Sally Bowers. John Bowers told me that they spent it cost them about $100 per building.
I think they got up to the 1920s or so.
Something like that. I'm not sure quite what they did, but they didn't finish, and we'd like to finish that, and so we're asking for that. And part of the reason for that is that this allows us to go forward with other projects. I mean, until we finish the survey, we really shouldn't, and the Historic Mass Commission won't really let us do other kind of things. Partly it helps us preserve buildings because the possibilities of, at least to delay demolition and talk about what you can do requires that the buildings be on this, have had a survey form filled out for them. And partly it then would also be the foundation for historic district proposals, and we really think we'd like to pursue that again, probably in a different area than was done last in 95, I think it was, when a historic district was proposed and was not accepted by a town. So this is basically our budget as we see it. You have, the $700 we get goes for some of the plaques that you see on, some of them on the, on historic sites, on streets, and some of them on houses themselves, and some other, minor, modest costs like that. I guess this last couple of years, we've got $50 for the Patriots' Day commemoration, which we appreciate, and that essentially goes for the wreaths that we use there. This year, we always got them from Weber's. Now Weber's gone out of business, but we got them from the Garden Club, and in fact, they were much better. So for the same price, we got really lovely wreaths this year from the Garden Club, and we really appreciated that. It was some of you come. Who gave the talk this year? Was it?
I didn't. Mine was 2 years ago.
2 years ago? Oh, Paul. It was Paul who gave the.
Not me.
Paul, not you, Paul.
You'd still be there if it was Glade.
We appreciate it, and we would like more of you to come because it's a fun event. I mean, it takes a very short time, It doesn't last very long, but it's a very nice thing. The Boxborough Minutemen are very nice, and they come with flags and some guns and a fife and drum and stuff like that, and it's really a very nice event. So that's kind of where we stand and where we'd like to go forward, and I hope we can.
Question on the 10,000, what is that for? Do you pay a consultant to come in and do this? Is that what that amounts to?
Yeah.
Pam Campbell and I did the first half of this survey when we were on the commission in late 70s.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize it.
Alan's been everywhere and done everything.
Yeah.
So we used what money we had, and we got, I guess, about half of it done. The rest of it, we left the commission at about that point. In fact, we stayed on to finish what we were doing, and then we both left. So I didn't realize that nobody ever carried it on. So it's really something that needs to be done.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate it. I hadn't realized this. one thing I'm finding, and as a historian myself, it really sort of bothers me that the records are not. We need to do a better job of kind of keeping records of certainly commissions like ours where we don't have an office, we don't have
Historical
staff.
Commission has no history.
Yeah, it's terrible, isn't it? I mean, it bothers me. You know, the history has been in a box that the one chair passes on to the next chair. And of course, now with electronic records, you know, half of them are electronic and half of them are paper, and you're not quite sure where you're at, and you'd like to sort of have references that you can go back and find. I think this is something that I'd like to see the town in general work on more.
Yeah, updating and historic inventory is eligible for community preservation funding. Just looking online quickly, there are a number of communities that have spent their CPA, Historic Resources Funds, to do that.
Oh, I saw
So
it.
if you need 10,000, so if, you know, for $10,000 project, that we can
Steer it towards
steer you towards that.
Okay.
And you're in the right place, because we've asked all town departments to have any funding request, no matter who pays for it, come through this budgeting process.
Oh, okay.
But in that, we can identify which ones that we then want to refer to the Community Preservation Committee.
Okay,
But,
okay.
you know, yeah, because we had the issue just come up in the last week or so, some particular property, it's on the list, but there's nothing that says why it's on the list and why they have to go see you for.
I think I just got that today or
demolition
something.
Delay by law.
Yeah.
So it would be, so we'd all be better served, the community would be, if we had that inventory updated and in a searchable database.
Hopefully completed. It is, I mean, the good thing about it is that now the Mass Historic Commission has put all of the survey forms online. And I encourage you, maybe some of you have houses that have been surveyed, I encourage you to look them up on what's called MACRIS, M-A-C-R-I-S. It's done by the Mass Historical Commission, and, you know, all those forms that were originally done on paper and were sent to them, they've digitized all of them, and they're all available, you know, for every community in the state. They're all available online, and it's a great resource to use, and we certainly make use of that. I mean, that's one record that we know we have, and that's very readily accessible. I mean, these are also on books in the library and in the Historical Society, but for me, I find it easier just to go online and, okay, I gotta look at this one and find that. So.
Very good.
Okay, thank you very much,
Thank you.
and we appreciate your,
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
that's not mine.
Nope, okay.
Thanks a lot.
You're going back to tab 6, and then you're going to look for planning.
Extra tabs. Good use recycling.
I promise I'm in there somewhere.
What's that?
I promise I'm in there somewhere.
Oh, no, yeah, I've got you. You go ahead.
Okay.
You go ahead. I got you.
Thanks. I've started to introduce myself as the entire planning department, both when I'm in town and when I'm out at meetings, because a lot of people presume that, you know, Littleton has a big planning department. Well, here it is. Let's see. The things that have changed over the last year, of course, is work of the Master Plan Update Steering Committee has begun. The official 5 hours a week that I'm supposed to be dedicating to them is a little more than that, but that seems to be one of the goals, big goals, major goals of the town, is to get us through that process in a professional manner.
You do a wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you for saying that. I'll tip you later. Okay. Thank you, Melissa. The other thing that has changed in our office is the hiring of a conservation coordinator, Amy Green, who you'll see next. That's really freed me from trying to help coordinate the change to professional level staff in that office. That's been a very big help for me, for the work that the planning department does. So that's been great. Level staff is simply level staff. Mission budget, the request is for 10 hours a week of a department clerk. I would get me from, free me from some of the clerical work that the office needs, and so that's probably not the most efficient way to be using my time. But I always feel bad requesting something after hearing, Pam with her needs, elder needs and everything like that, but that is the mission budget request. Planning boards did support that unanimously, which I was very happy to hear. I don't know what kind of questions
Anything else?
you might.
Anybody have any questions? Myron?
I'll second the great job Myron's doing on the master plan, on that.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I would agree. Not just that, but everything you do there. Spectacular. But
Yes.
I have a question.
Gotta
on
watch Alan when he
the
throws
sheet
the
that
compliment.
Yeah, but if you roll ahead here, you have a total revenue available funds of 88,000 and change, but your operating budget is 78,930.
I didn't add the master plan funding into that.
I'm sorry?
I had missed adding the master plan funding into the title of the grant one. I need to add that in there. That's my error.
That makes a difference? Gotcha.
Okay, so that was easy to answer.
I don't miss anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Myron.
Push us up a little bit.
I'm going to stay on tab 6 and go to conservation.
As you are. First one.
Hang on, was it first? No, it's not mine. Myron came to me earlier. There it is. There it is.
There it is, all right. My name's Amy Green, I'm the Conservation Coordinator. I started in January, and I've never done budget stuff before, so let me know if I'm going off in left field or right field or something here. I am working at most 20 hours a week to do the responsibilities of the job, and it seems to be working out fairly well, which is why actually previously the salaries had been more, but with my smaller hours, it actually works out into a net gain for you guys. I was asking for an additional $200 in the $1,000 budget. It's been real tight, and there's things that we haven't done, quite frankly, because we just didn't have the money, and I wasn't sure what I needed to do with the money. Our biggest expense is the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commission membership, which goes up a little bit every year. It's about a little under $500, so that's about half the budget right there, which doesn't leave us with a lot besides that. Myself and our commission, we both all tend to go to, as we can, training seminars, conferences, workshops, those kinds of things, and that's just been a little bit curtailed while I'm trying to figure out what the budget is and what I might need by the end of the year. So I don't know, that's a
So
quick overlay.
explain, so you just said that it's $500 per membership, but I don't see a $500 item here. So where is that on the budget? I see 200 and 200 and...
Yeah, frankly, I wasn't quite sure how, the travel, the office expenses, the other supplies. I added, there's a line item for dues and subscriptions, and added professional services. And went back and forth, and it was certainly partly my confusion was I wasn't sure how rigid these categories were, because, things do tend to float through there, which is why there wasn't a specific, I think, $465 line item for MACC.
Okay.
I was...
Modify them, we'll just do a transfer between the line items to even them out.
Okay. But that's what the professional is, just adding that so you cover that fee for that.
So that's,
To sort of make up the difference, yeah.
Okay.
why is that subscription so high? What do they do for you?
They actually offer a lot. They have conferences and workshops. They have a handbook, which I use all the time, which quite frankly, Acton is paying for my membership on that one anyway, because I'm on the Acton Conservation Commission, so it's cheaper doing it that way. And if I would have any regulatory process type questions, I can ask them. They have a web forum where you can ask the Conservation Commission community in general. And actually, I was also on the MACC board as well. So they do a lot of good stuff, and they do a lot of support stuff.
Anybody? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you're doing there.
Enjoy your afternoon.
You too.
Moving right along.
Cruise control.
Right on time.
I'd like to say a few words on behalf of the IT department. I whipped that up in the last 12 hours.
You gonna send Kim before rec?
We can grill it on
What tab are we on now?
payroll already.
I see, 4.
I'm innocent.
Tab 4.
IT.
How did this happen?
I'll tell you that story, actually. I haven't even been able to debrief my own board yet.
Serve on the finance committee before you get a town job.
So Melissa Hebert, Board of Selectmen. For those of you that don't know, I've been in the technology industry for 15 years now. I work for one of the largest technology companies in the world, and I'm a global leader for that company. So I have a lot of experience and background with IT. And one of the things that the selectmen tasked me to do is to work with our IT department on some of our policies around IT, starting with social media, going to email accounts and that kind of thing. And so I got to work with Nancy Glencross, who's from our IT department and is on the first page, the picture there. And of course, I'm naturally curious and got to lift the hood of that car to see, how is our IT department functioning, what are the roles and responsibilities, scope, who does what, that kind of thing. And I learned a lot, and so I wanted to just paint a little bit of a picture here for you guys, because I think this is an area, a lot like the Elder Human Services conversation, that as a town, we're going to need to start focusing in on. So just a couple of contextual things. When we talk about IT in this town, the scope is really large. Just in the building we're sitting at right now, the IT department looks after the wireless, the wired internet, the software. You're getting to my punchline. Wait, I'm not there yet.
Okay.
The software that matches the vehicle scans to which vehicle is it, the scanners, the security in the building, recording and taping in this room. If that wasn't working, the public wouldn't be seeing what we're doing right now. And that's just this building. And the RIT department covers many buildings and lots of things. Our website, our mobile devices. Hey, I can't log in on my laptop. Oh, I can't log in on my cell phone. Everything you can think of, library, cemetery, highway, and more. So the scope is huge, and I think they do a really, really good job. So that being said, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a comparison. I have a lot of, and now you can go to the next one, please, sorry. I have a lot of experience with building teams in IT and figuring out who should be doing what. And just by way of comparison, if we look at Westford, they've got a director who looks after everything. You have a network admin reporting to them, an operations manager, 2 systems and applications people, real good structure. Acton actually has a little more fancy there, a CIO and a CTO, a couple of techs and web admin. And Groton, you see you got a director and various support people to support them. Now, by contrast, Littleton's IT department looks like this. It is all Nancy Glencross, so she plays every role, does every single function. She is constantly busy and works really hard, and again, does a fantastic job. But the reason why I wanted to bring this to your attention is I think we can make some subtle shifts here, both short and long term, to really get more out of our IT department. And so today's ask, and maybe Bonnie, I might ask you to talk to numbers, but is a very small one. I think the regular budget is nothing too interesting, but the change for mission would be just an 18,000, I think 500 or 700, something like that.
Just over 18,000.
Just over 18, to get her some help. If you look on that org chart, those frontline kind of administrators, those guys that are out there, troubleshooting the hardware things, that kind of stuff, we could take a little bit off of her plate from a lower level skill perspective. I think she could really focus on some heavy hitting items, and we could see a lot out of her, not to mention give her a bit of work-life balance and a little bit of mental sanity back as well. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. She does a great job, and with no help, as you can see.
So Melissa and maybe Bonnie, how does the situation with the light department farming out basically our backbone, from what I can see, how does that impact, or does it impact your thinking on what this department needs to do or needs to look like? Or
Certainly impacts it, and not in a good way, and I'll let Bonnie maybe speak to
Sure,
that.
we're just in the early stages of discussing this with the light department, and we are going to schedule
It's
some more.
well, we had a meeting on Thursday, but it will need to be a topic that's on our joint discussion with the light and water commissioners. Because they're deciding to contract out their entire IT function, some of which we rely on in real time. And the vendor that they're selecting is that there's the opportunity for us to buy sort of à la carte services to do some things for us, but we've only, those conversations have just begun.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Just so we don't miss it in this cycle.
It may be that the assistance that, of the sort that Nancy needs could be procured from that vendor to some degree, but we don't know that yet, because the details haven't been shared.
Now, I was thinking I'm sort of on the other side of the coin, is if what Melissa was suggesting would be enough with the vacuum created.
Yeah, I had worried about that too.
And with the IT going out. It may be that, to your point, we can outsource the same way the light department can outsource, and it may all work. As long as senior people are looking at it, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that that didn't happen and create a heck of a vacuum someplace.
My only comment to it is, and I know Melissa and I had brief conversations about it, is you bring a building like this on, you bring the new technology into this building, what is the PD assisting IT with? Nothing.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's a systemic issue for the town, I believe,
Absolutely.
to not pay attention to IT, and here we are bringing new facilities on, new technologies on. So, as a whole, we should task our department heads, if you're going to use IT, what are you bringing to the table?
Well, I know that the light department used to provide, and still does provide, some IT services for us.
But they're farming all that out.
They're going to farm it all out. But my point is, that was, I assume, part of their payment in lieu of taxes.
Yes.
And if they're now not going to give that to us, but they're going to farm it out, and we're going to have to buy those services now, then whatever the contract price is, the payment in lieu of taxes should offset it.
Sure.
That's a suggestion.
All good things to talk about.
That's what I said.
I'll be on the same page, you got it.
The payment in lieu of tax issue for years was...
It's a complex relationship.
Well, plus it was always, we were sold on lowball figures of what it would be on the basis of, but, don't apply a real number there because you're getting all sorts of other goodies. Well, the goodies are starting to disappear,
away.
so...
Well, on the other hand, you're just getting an 18% cut in your electric rate.
That's fine, but they're not they have owners, and the owners are us, and...
Oh, I'm absolutely with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's why I was disappointed, this is jumping ahead to the actual next item.
Check in years.
The water department budget, I understand, is, off-cycle, or not prepared yet, I guess. The light department, their budget is ultimately approved at the state level, correct? Or it's reviewed anyways at the state level. But nonetheless, they both are town entities that have financial impacts, and they really should be here making a presentation of some sort, even if it's explaining to the town through us that they don't, their operating budgets aren't reviewed here.
I did speak to the general manager, and Scott Edwards, and he said that as soon as he has draft budgets prepared, he's perfectly, happy to come in and make a presentation to both the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, but it's,
Except that water department goes to the same town meeting as we all do.
Right,
Our budgets
right.
are ready.
Right.
So what's that?
yeah, I guess, right, in any event, they
Well-
could be here making an update or a presentation of some sort. You chose to say it, we didn't mean to put you in the hot seat.
I'm just saying, go IT.
Well, we've been working hard to get the schools on the same, we don't
Yeah,
want to
right,
leave these
right.
guys out. now.
Took
There's a
the
reason.
words right out of my
Yeah,
mouth.
exactly.
Took the words right out of my mouth. And slowly they're coming, so maybe it's
Yep.
time to start that process.
They need to be
But
part.
we have other departments that are with separately elected boards who have enterprise funds, and they have their budgets.
Sure, they show up.
To us on time.
This is the schedule. Do it. Okay.
So,
It's
Melissa,
possible to do it if you want.
is building management
us a
system,
subpoena.
does that fall under IT?
Building management system, I don't know that.
Turning lights and heat and air conditioning on?
I don't know.
When the building's not occupied? and,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
Does
control.
that fall under IT?
I don't know that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have to check.
I mean, we did talk to Scott Edwards, Greg and I, and I know that the facility they occupy has a building management system. They work 4 days a week, and they shut down their, heating or air conditioning when the building's not occupied.
Yeah, yeah, smart for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I have general building under responsibilities, but I don't know if that's software in particular.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'll follow up on that for sure.
And is that 18,000, is that for just part-time help?
Exactly, yeah, I forget the hours.
15 hours a
Thank you,
week.
15 hours of someone, a tech out there just troubleshooting the lower skilled level problems, basically, and let her focus on the higher skilled level problems. Yeah.
And this is just within the municipal town, nothing to do with the schools? 'Cause they've got a gazillion.
That's correct, yeah, yeah.
Well, hopefully, if something along those lines were to happen, it would help alleviate one recurrent problem. It's a bottleneck for any department that wants to use the town website. Everything has
right.
to go in through Nancy, so
Yep.
you can wait in line, or just give up,
Yep.
which is unfortunately a lot of what happens. So you get information that doesn't, we could be producing real-time information on the website, we're not.
Bingo.
And, your case is that it's a manpower or a staffing issue, well, if that's the case, all right, fine, but,
Yeah, I think I'd love to continue to work with Nancy to find ways to solve the problems that I'm seeing, and that they don't all mean money. We can do things differently. Maybe the schools can even help us. I don't know. I've got all sorts of ideas, but we are just in the, I'm just kind of, I don't want to use that that analogy. I'm understanding the situation right now, so if it's the board's pleasure, I'd love to continue to work with her and figure out what a longer-term solution would be, but I know in the immediate term, if we can get some of that not busy work, but that low-level skilled stuff off her plate, 15 hours a week, I think would go a long way for what we need her to do. Also, I'm volunteering my time and learning how to do things like update the website, so you'll have two people that you can go to, at least the master plan's my first customer, and of course, Selectmen as well. But, I think there's lots of ideas we could have and really make a big improvement in IT, so. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Melissa?
And again, I apologize, I didn't get to brief you guys, but I finished that as we were sitting here, so.
Okay, so we know the water department's not going to be here, but do you guys have anything to share based on your conversations with Scott that you want to talk about?
Well, I think what my takeaway from our meeting, I think it was on Thursday, wasn't it?
Correct.
Was the conversation that we had relative to stormwater requirements and how that's going to be handled. Obviously, I know that Scott's in conversation with you, Keith.
Yes, that up until now, the water department has been providing whatever we've been doing to try to get on line with stormwater, and Scott's made it known that that's the town's responsibility, whatever the solution is.
I think his comment to us was, just because water's in our name doesn't mean it's our
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, and at some level, that's an unfortunate answer because I think that unless the town's prepared to set up a duplicate department that's capable of doing similar things, I told Scott, I'd much prefer that we explore the opportunity that if we do have to set up some function with, that I would rather have that function be supervised by him and his organization, and then we procure the service, as we do now with, we hire for our wastewater treatment facility monitoring for the high school system that serves all the public buildings. We procured.
After throwing Scott under the bus,
Yeah.
I just want to say that he's totally on board with
Yeah,
that.
and we want it, right, he's indicated a willingness to work with us to figure out what is the right solution. It could be, there could be enough for that, for that function together with other things, if we're looking at, highway contracts and engineer and all that. There might be enough to have that warrant its own position and set it up somewhere. But it just as easily could be that it's someone that could be under the light and water umbrella. So, yes, we're committed to exploring together what is the best thing from the town's perspective. And, but what the town would need to bring to the table is the funding.
I also
not
got
just-
the impression that he was speaking about setting up another utility, almost like another utility company on it, because they have the billing mechanism. So if this was going to be billed by, almost like water, like usage, based on how much impervious land you have, so on and so forth, that it could be handled through water.
Yeah, I think there's two things there. One is that many communities are looking at establishing legally or financially a separate stormwater utility. Where that would, just you keep track of it separately as you do a water enterprise fund or something like that. As far as the billing goes, that is particularly where I would have no desire for us to set up a redundant system, but rather, since they've got one that works pretty well over at Light and Water, for us to have if there were billing to be involved, if there were a fee system and individual properties were to be billed, I'd much rather that we take advantage of a utility billing system that's already in place, rather than setting up another one.
Yep.
But we're going to explore all the, and absolutely, Scott and Corey and his team have been very cooperative in working with us and their willingness to have us figure it out. But they have made it very clear that it's our problem to be solved, and not just, and they've carried the ball up till now, but it's the town's problem to solve, and they're going to work with us.
Of course, that had nothing to do with the water department. But it was interesting.
On the other hand, I mean, we all drink water, number one, and protecting the aquifer is absolutely a water department issue.
Well,
So if...
yeah, the unit of measure is water quality. The whole reason why the EPA is making municipalities get into the stormwater business is for water quality, which you're right, is well water.
Also, the impulse why we, a decade ago, began the process of looking into sewering for the town, but that's politicized in other ways, but...
Right, that's where it actually starts, down in that office, absolutely, yeah. So, okay.
But
Sell my recharge back.
Another thing he noted
Do
was
solar.
with Very Fine going offline, that has reduced demand on water by about 20%. So he's deferring the Cobb Hill well process. So it's another takeaway we got.
Yeah, and the Whitcomb Ave well site, which is not treated, I guess they don't treat the water that comes out of there.
Right.
Like they do at the other two sites. So they're kind of not using that as much, or not relying on that as much as they have, or need to rely on it.
And the other benefit that I recall was that they were able to take one of the tanks offline, because they were going to have to come forward with a, I don't know, $500,000 or $750,000 refurb of the tank. So they were able to actually mothball. I believe got approval from the state to mothball that tank for some period of time. So again, just little things that are working.
They didn't mention the tank. Which tank?
Cedar Hill, I believe.
Cedar Hill.
I think Recreation's out there. I saw those guys.
Yeah, that's Fred.
Fred?
Right.
If they're sitting here, let's go.
Wish I knew.
Maybe we should go in early. Oh,
Oh, I'm just dropping my stuff off.
well, we're not staying either.
Oh, okay. The door was locked. You guys were keeping me out.
Door's locked?
You just go, come on, are you serious? Oh, my goodness.
Rookie.
Yeah. Okay, great.
We were more than eager, Joe, that's all.
Getting close to the end there, Al.
18.
18.
Oh, you've got tabs. You're fancy.
You get tabs on everything.
I know, it's great. It's good news. All right. I'm sorry, what number is this? 18. 18. That's a fun number to get. Yeah. Go right ahead. All right. Introduce yourself to the TV audience.
So hello, I'm Alicia Day. I am the Recreation Director for the town of Littleton. So I guess I'll just do a short synopsis of fiscal year 2016. So this was the first year that we were actually on a enterprise fund, so we had transitioned from a general fund over to enterprise. So all of our programs and events were sustainable, with the exception of the driver's ed program, which we did end up closing that out. So we are no longer offering driver's education. We did lose some money during fiscal year 16, mostly due to the closure of the driver's ed program and the beach as well. That maintains to be an area where we do consistently, lose money. So the revenue for the beach for fiscal year 15, we actually were at a loss of about $34,000. And this last year, our program specialist, Erin Cahill, did a really good job of pulling back the reins, sending people home when we could. So we're still at a loss of about $16,400, but it's greatly changed, in comparison.
Is that all labor on the lake one?
Yeah, so that would be, sorry, I didn't do that one, I apologize.
That's just like me, I have to see.
So it was a combination of the actual expenditures for items that we needed to supply the snack shack, things like that, as well as mostly payroll for our lifeguards. Any other? All right. So our participation numbers for 2016 have gone down. We know that we've severely cut back marketing to save money, and that's clearly affected the numbers of participants that we've had. We do hope moving forward that we will put a marketing plan in order and that we can actually hopefully save some money to be able to put towards that so we can encourage and do better in that area. So it was a big year of transitions. As I'm the new recreation director, the previous recreation directors left. And so I have to really give a lot of credit to Sharon Martell and to Erin Cahill, who did a lot of work on the finance in that transition. They really did a good job with something that was really challenging. So some major points. I wish it was all sunshine and rainbows. Alas, it's not. So one positive thing, we had a level staffing a year ago that was around 9. And then again, with the loss or the leaving behind of the driver's ed program, we now have 5. And that seems to be the appropriate number to really keep the level staffing at. I think that would be like a bare minimum that we would want to have in that office is 5. The programs and events are sustainable, but it is getting challenged at this point to be able to balance that. So we need to be able to keep our costs at a maintained level so that, it can be affordable to the residents that live here, as well as trying to be competitive with other towns. There's a lot of other towns in the region that have recreation programs as well. So that in competition with the staffing costs jumping up with step grade raises and things like that, we're, getting to a point where it's a bit of a challenge to keep that balance. So the loss of the beach, again, is an ongoing issue. So the amount of stickers that we do sell has gone down every year since we instituted them. I don't have any specific statistics behind it, but my understanding of the reason for it is that we can't actually enforce it. The Recreation Department, we can't enforce that. And I think a lot of people realize there's other places that they can park and walk to. So, that number really has declined over the years.
Do we actually ticket people that go in there without a sticker or not?
Well, we don't, yeah.
Do the police department do that or not?
No, not to my knowledge, yeah.
Shouldn't say that on
We
TV,
give
should
them
I?
Sternberg expensive.
But I did notice this year you do offer a day parking sticker, which I don't think you used to do
Correct.
that, and I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people know that that's available to them,
Is
but,
that the Alicia Day parking?
exactly, in your honor.
In my honor. So this again goes to that marketing piece, is that we'd really like to be able to have, we'll get to a rec track upgrade later on when we talk about capital planning. But one of the things that we can get with a rec track upgrade would be a point of sales operating system, which we kind of have right now, but with the beauty of being able to institute that is that we would actually be able to put those on an iPad right there, and then slide, people can pay with their credit card, and then we would do more advertising saying, if you need to purchase beach stickers, please go to Snack Shack, because I think a lot of it is that there's not signage to let people know where things are. So, yeah, hopefully that would be, could change it a little bit. We'll see over the summer.
One question, Keith, we should put on, what's our regulatory authority to ticket people without stickers,
Yeah, I had, I'll follow that up, I raised that recently with the town council and the police chief. Part of it is that we have a non-criminal disposition bylaw which allows ticketing per se for violations of certain things, but it does not include regulations adopted by the Park and Rec Board. And we would have to go to town meeting to get that.
If we can get some type of regulation or some type, we can get to the Park and Rec Board to say, all right, here's the process, get it to the Board of Selectmen to vet it
We'll follow that
out.
up.
Thank you.
So I guess the main point of that is that the revenue from the beach stickers and from the Snack Shack, again, doesn't come close to paying for the lifeguard staff that we have out there. So for me, that's a concern because it's, financially a concern, but it's also a liability issue for the town. So, we really have to start thinking about different ways to be able to approach how we're going to pay for that staffing out there.
One question on
Yeah.
the, sorry to interrupt you.
No.
As far as the lifeguard staffing, is there a per capita, or how is that, how do you figure out you need 2 lifeguards on duty, 3 lifeguards? Who regulates that and tells you how many lifeguards?
Right, usually, the Board of Health will tell us that, there needs to be this many lifeguards to this many people in the water. So, those are the numbers that we've been, in the past, I think we went as, just as safety, we want to have as many lifeguards out there as possible, because beaches are, a little bit more challenging than a pool. So, this year, we really have worked on that specific number of paring back when we had a smaller number of people there visiting the beach. Yep.
I know DCR does a lot with their beaches. I'm wondering if there's any advice or anything that you could probably research on that.
Yeah, definitely. I'll, put more research into it and see what options we have. But at the end of the day, the money that we bring in is just not the same amount that we, are paying out. So, moving forward for 17, I'm really going to be trying to work on a marketing plan and coming up with a budget that we're going to stick with to kind of turn this around. So hopefully we can pinpoint and start correcting those drops in participation. I've been working with Bonnie a lot to be able to streamline the paperwork for the budget and the reports in SoftWrite. And again, we are really being kind of sticklers about our internal budgets for programs, events, things like that, and making sure that we are staying, where we need to. So let's see here. You have a question? Yeah, sure.
On the beach stickers?
Yep.
What percentage were non-resident versus resident this year? Do you know roughly?
I actually don't know that offhand. I can get back to you on that specific amount.
Are you still charging a slightly higher rate, or what is that mix now?
Right. So normally with non-residents, we do charge at least like $3 more than we would to residents. That's at least with our programs. So
What
yes.
about beach stickers?
With beach stickers, I'm not sure what the actual difference is specifically for the out-of-town and the in-town. I know that, I think on general, it's like $50 for a seasonal pass, and then the $10 for, the individuals that would be doing a one-day visit.
We still have a significant difference, Greg, but what's happened is with Narra Park and everything else, we're just not getting the same Acton and out-of-town crowd that we used to back in the day, back.
Yeah, 'cause it used to be a pretty significant.
It was, but that
difference.
was, you gotta remember, that was before Narra was open, and,
Well, Narrow was open at that time.
no, Narra opened after we had that moratorium. Remember where we had to charge the same? That was around,
Yeah, that was for that
we're
grant.
both getting older, Greg.
I know.
It seems more recent than it was.
That's interesting. All right.
All right, so I guess some takeaways for, moving forward. Again, the programs are sustainable, the events are sustainable. We do a really good job. We just had our turkey trot today, this morning, and we had 119 participants, which was really great. So, those things we're doing really well. But when it comes to certain areas like the parks, the maintenance of the parks, and again, the lifeguard staffing, those are areas where we definitely still would need some continued help. And in the capital request, we had the $50,000 request for parks maintenance. And that would pay for things like maintaining our playgrounds, putting, every year we have to put a load of sand down on the beach, which is quite a big expense to make sure, we have erosion control. There's things that are scheduled, again, like playgrounds and maintenance on that, and then there's random things that come up all the time. And, that could be a deep dock at the beach that, for whatever reason, is like sinking. We have one of those issues. So to be able to rectify that and have funds to be able to, fix those issues as they come up is really, really important for us to continue what we're doing and have the quality of, the parks and the facilities that we want to provide for our residents. Let's see, what else? I think I want to go back to that piece that I mentioned at the meeting when I met with FinCom last time, and I know not everyone was here, but just the fact that, recreation, it's an understated importance of our department. Research has shown that the positive benefits and increase of quality of life for those that incorporate recreations into their lives, it helps them physically, emotionally, and mentally and socially. So more positive opportunities that we have to allow our community members to interact, foster a sense of place. So when we feel like we belong, we're included. We give back, we encourage others to get involved and give back. It's a positive upcycle that creates an environment where people want to live their lives. So I just, I feel like the word fun gets thrown around too much when you hear recreation, and there's much deeper benefits that really come out of it, and it's community depth. So, just want to kind of reiterate that and keep that in mind for you folks. So I guess with that, I'll move on to capital budget. I already mentioned the $50,000 that we have gotten last year, and we would appreciate to be able to get that again this year. It really does not only help Highway, because Highway is the one that's out there doing the most of that work, but it really helps to be able to maintain all of our parks, again, and facilities at a level that they really should be, taken care of and in that.
So Bonnie, how does this work? It's just a general here, major equipment and repairs. So how does that work in terms of capital?
It's any facility maintenance or repair, so it can't be used for, equipment or supplies used in a sports program. But
Buying
beach-
sand?
Buying sand, yes, because if, the way that we looked at this last year is if there were no Park and Rec department, the types of things that would need to be maintained would need to be maintained. So this account would be used for those types of things. We still need to maintain the beach. If the playground at Fay Park collapses, we need to maintain that. So any type of those types of expenditures are okay to go through that account. But you can't take electric bills out of it, you can't take, water bills out of it, you can't do regular routine operating costs.
All right.
And you're kind of the gate on that in terms of what's, okay.
She definitely tells me no.
And Michelle, my assistant Michelle.
Okay, so then also on the capital plan, there is a request for $17,116.94 to finish or at least put in fencing at 300 King. So, there was a grand plan for 300 King, and this would change the original plan, which was to do fencing along every single one of the basketball courts. And I think they were even like 8 foot high, so it was a bit extreme. It kind of looked like a prison, so we decided that was not a good option.
Looking like a prison.
Somebody can help us with that.
No razor ribbon.
But we don't want to keep people in. So the idea is that we would minimize the fencing to just important areas. So along the outside of the court if you're looking at the courts, it would be the left-hand side because there is a hill that sort of rolls down. So that would stop any, basketballs that would be rolling off the court. So we would only do the 100 feet for the back court, 100 feet for the front court, and then there would be the 60 feet in the front so that, again, so we wouldn't have basketballs or any kids running into parking lots. So these are just some basic safety procedures, precautions that we would want to be able to put that fencing in.
I gotta tell you, I walked out there with Ivan, and, 300 King, if you haven't been there, it really came out beautiful.
Yeah.
And to add what you're talking about, Alicia, just makes sense. I mean, after going out with Ivan and walking and seeing actually what you're talking about, it's.
Yeah.
I would just, one of the things on PMBC that we missed was a removable bollard for emergency vehicles.
Correct.
So when you're installing your fence along the front there, just make sure you have enough room for an emergency vehicle to get maybe over by the playground there.
Okay.
And back to the courts.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We're going to try and keep it around the courts more than anything, so
Yeah.
that we
Right.
have plenty of access.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's see.
This is like a 3 foot high fence now rather than
4,
8 foot.
that's
4,
it.
okay.
Yeah, so we're way under 8 foot. It's not, we're talking about just collecting those rolling basketballs, and, that's about it. So the other request was a computer registration system upgrade, and that actually has just changed within the last 2 weeks. So we use a online registration program called RecTrack, and they have an upgrade that's RecTrack 3.1. We currently use 10.3. And that was installed in 2008. We have done no maintenance to the program at all since 2008, so we're just going to state that. So, originally when I started this process, I was thinking, well, we need to upgrade. That's the idea. So the original request was, it was just under, I think, $6,000 to do the upgrade. But with talking with them, we actually did a WebEx demonstration, and we learned that if we buy a couple of these, they call them modules, we can kind of switch things around. We can put a fancy skin on the web page to make things more interactive, a lot easier. If you've tried to register it, it can be a bit challenging. So this would make it super simple. We'd have pictures. It would be aesthetic and easy to use. And then we would actually be able to get 2 days of in-office training from their department for all of our staff for the It's not the 3,400. It is 2,700. And then the extra 700 would be for, we need to install an EMV chip reader, which as of October 1st, all businesses need to be upgraded to this EMV chip reader. And we don't have the amount to be able to purchase, one of them is $700. So it's a pretty
There's a
big
surcharge
expenditure.
for that too, if you don't do it, right? For the
Well,
merchant?
the reality of it is that if you haven't done it by the October date, any fraudulent activity would be our responsibility. We're on the hook for that. So if somebody comes in, and does.
There's risk there.
There is risk, yep. So that is our rec track, the fencing.
Is that rec track supported by Nancy Glencross from the IT department?
Yes, she's been really fantastic. She has been involved with using rec track and communicating with some of their staff, because some of the stuff is like over our heads. So everything that she does all the work with the servers. So, she has been talking and communicating with them in that aspect. And then with us and the program every day to day, that's, on us to work with the software.
Okay. So as you go into this one of the things we were just talking about before you came in the room is we just need to think through, or I'd like to understand more the impact on Nancy's time and her scope and that kind of thing, and maybe
Yeah.
there's a financial aspect of your request that could help her out a little bit, just something to think about.
Well, and I think there is, because if we have our train that's going to be updated, you have to remember, this training happened very minimally and back in 2008, so a lot has changed. So if we can have all of our staff completely current and up to date, that's going to be less question and, time working with Nancy. It literally would be, if something happened where the servers went down, that would be the only thing that we wouldn't be able to fix, because that's IT realm. Yep. So then the last one is Alumni Field. And we put this in because, we don't have an amount. It is to be determined, because it's one of those pieces where I think there is an acknowledgement that we really do need to be able to do something to update that facility. I think it is, it's just not safe in a lot of ways. We can make it more aesthetic, more easily accessible for our students, and for the youth that work here, play and are in sports here as well. So I think it's more just for you to have on your radar, knowing that this is something that we really genuinely should put some money in and be able to, work in the future to be able to fix this. Yeah, I don't know if I can say that much more about it.
It's an embarrassment, you can say it.
Well-
These championship teams coming through and,
Yeah.
it's in tough shape. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Something has to be dealt with it.
And I think, at this point in time, we really don't know what our options are. So again, that's why the to be determined is that we know that there needs to be renovation out there. We just don't know what all the options are. So I think that's part of, the town processes, figuring that out and figuring out what's best for the town. I just didn't want to miss this opportunity to put it on the capital plan, knowing that, I don't want to just say, surprise, we need this, chunk of money, that it is something that is going to be coming up and, it very seriously, I think, should be looked at.
Is there an official stance on how much of that is Park and Rec versus the schools? What do we do
Sure,
with
there's an
that?
MOU. They're responsible for all the fields, not the schools, period.
Technically, yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
So part of the issue that we looked at is while the field's in terrible shape, we're short total field hours in the town.
Yeah.
There just aren't enough fields in general that necessarily repairing Alumni Field isn't going to be the be-all and end-all of it. So some of the things we want to look at is doing repairs there and replacing that field, but also finding a place to expand, whether it be the Morgan land, where we've got 3 fields that could possibly go in at some point. Some of the other sites that have come up for consideration in terms of purchase, but we repairing alumni is not going to alleviate the lack of field space at all. It's, and if you put turf in, it can get more use. People have said, well, you'll rent it out, except we have so many kids that use the fields that we're going to be renting it out at midnight on Fridays, an ice rink. So we've thought that we need to look at opening up fields somewhere else and creating more space. So that's all part of what we'll look at once we see some more concrete proposals in terms of what needs to be done at alumni.
Is the fellow that is volunteering to,
Sean?
yeah, tell us that we need to put turf on?
Well, he's gonna do
Alumni
a
Field?
conceptual plan is what he's gonna do.
Okay, but is his focus just alumni field, or is it the needs of the town?
It is at
field?
this point.
Just
We
alumni field.
accepted his in-kind services for specifically the alumni field complex.
Okay, okay. So that doesn't help with Fred's question?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so I
No.
think
I mean,
somehow we
as
need-
Fred said, we need more space, we need more fields, but if we do rent it at midnight, you'd get takers. It's that.
Well, yeah, I mean,
It's that crazy.
that's a different issue.
Oh, yeah,
And
okay.
something has to be done down there. I mean, there's no question.
Right.
I mean, the stands, if another year from now the stands fall down and hurt somebody,
Yep.
that's unacceptable. But to Fred's point, if we don't have enough field hours available in the town, even with, putting a really nice field down at Alumni Field, then what's the next step? I'm thinking more of the capital plan that we were talking about in the next couple of years. And, we've got a lot of big ticket items coming, so is there yet another ticket item because there's an incremental field needed on top of renovating alumni? I don't know the answer, but what I sort of think I'm hearing from Fred is alumni field's going to be wonderful, but I think I need more turf. I need more square feet of fields.
We need to, one of the concerns we had that we discussed at our last meeting was that we'll take a piecemeal approach to this and go, okay, we need to do alumni, and then we'll come up with some plan to repair alumni. And then all these other things are sort of, okay, now how do we address those? And perhaps, none of us know, but perhaps we need to look at alumni needs to be taken care of, and we need to get other fields, and how do we make all of that happen in an orderly plan? And it may be that alumni gets done, and then 3 years later, we do the other fields. But we shouldn't just do one thing and then worry about how we're going to address them in the future, because that's sort of why we end up driving 30 minutes between games in town now, because we've approached everything sort of one at a time, so.
I think the open space and recreation plan is being worked on, yes?
It is, yeah,
So-
that there's going to be one more public forum back to be held in the next month or so. We still have our consultants from NABC working and pulling together the open space and recreation plan. So it's only going to be like a high-level view. It's not going to
It's a good map.
Yeah, one of its purposes is to make sure that the needs of recreation and open space are both there side by side, so it's not, so we can sort of figure out, have a framework for deciding what should go where, rather than just either not having plans.
Where are the Morgan lands?
It's across, up over sort of, I was gonna say,
Behind the fire
my
station.
house.
Across from Groskowski.
Across from like the church and Two Brothers
Oh, got it,
Trail.
got it.
back
Cross-
up-
yeah.
back up in there.
Literally behind the fire station.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay.
And there's some discussion about that, about whether it was really supposed to be conservation land as part of the Proudy land and all that stuff, so it's not
Argument for another
clear
day.
land. I know, but I just,
Right out there.
not
It's
sitting
not
there
going
waiting
to
for
be
the
a new
taking.
fire
It's- it's
station, we
not-
know that, so.
So I think that is all I have, unless anyone has any more additional questions.
Keep up the good work, thank you.
Thank
Glad to
you.
be here.
Yeah.
At the end of the year.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thanks, Fred.
Fred, did you run the race this morning?
What?
I stood and pointed at the cones for people to run around. That was.
Looked like you could.
Right, same thing. Same thing.
If we're not.
All right, Steve. Not yet. So close. He's gonna do PNBC and.
Well, these deals-
We're gonna do the same thing Melissa did.
ZBA.
In the
I
hot
don't want
seat.
my
Doing a different hat.
Yeah.
He's represented by.
Have any neat pictures to hand out?
I have nothing. I got nothing.
Bullock charts, anything? Come on.
No color pictures.
What's it that?
Where are we? What
Tab.
tab?
It's
Tab
tab
7.
7, but just go to the back of tab 7 and the capital needs projects.
Okay.
sheet.
My name's Steve Moore. I'm a member of the Permanent Municipal Building Committee. I'm here representing Joe Clentro, the chairman who can't be here this afternoon. I've got a list of projects that we completed this year, as well as the capital needs projects for next year, which is in your book. But I'd like to preface my remarks here today to talk about the EMG study that was done a few years ago. We've been using that as kind of our baseline for projects going forward. Last year, we understood by, we took a look at Shaker Lane, requirements for paving down there. And the proposal from EMG was to just kind of do seal coating. Talking to Steve Mark and Jimmy Clyde, that just was not the right approach. The pavement was so deteriorated, seal coating it would have been throwing money away. So what we did last year, we decided to totally repave that section of Shaker Lane
That was in the
School.
back, I'm sorry, Steve, but that was in the back where it was really bad, right?
In the back, and then kind of up the side, we did that. We wanted to do more, but we didn't think we had enough money in the budget.
Oh, didn't they do the front parking lot too, I saw
Yeah,
being done?
yeah,
too?
we did part of that.
Okay.
And then we need to do, out in front of the school is some of the pavers, or some of the sidewalk is uneven, quite a bit. Some of the curbing needs to be replaced, some more of the paving needs to be done. So we do have some money left over from last year. Working with Green to come up with a budget, we are asking for an additional $28,500 for the next fiscal year to complete that work. So what we've decided to do is use EMG as kind of a guide, and then go in with a more educated eye and take a look at, what's the best thing to do? Where do we get the best bang for our buck? So that's the way we're going to approach EMG's list going forward. One of those, the first item on our capital needs list for fiscal year 17 is the Russell Street School paving curb and sidewalk. EMG's suggestion was to go in and seal coat and crack seal up there. Again, not the right thing to do. So what we worked with Green to come up with a conceptual estimate, scope of work, and came up with this budget. So this is our ask for fiscal year 17 going forward. Town Hall, second level at the library, the roof up there, $130,000. Again, some rooftop units and HVAC units, $60,000. Parking lot crack repair at the Town Hall, $25,000. To finish up Shaker Lane Univents, $68,500. Previously, that had been carried by the school budget. Somehow, that got over into PMBC this year. I think that was my fault. Talking with Steve Mark back and forth, that ended up on our list. And then
It was
last,
on their capital plan though, right?
it was, yeah.
Right, it's a capital, it's not.
And then last but not
It's
least,
a line item every year.
it's become apparent, looking at the AMG list, we're going to need to do some upfront engineering to scope out some of the work that's going to be required. So we're asking for some engineering money to scope out, produce contract documents so we can then advertise and put those jobs out on the street.
So similar to what you had to do, say, for Russell Street up here?
Yep.
So where did that money come from? You had money from before to do that one?
Russell Street is an ask for next year.
Right?
Yep.
So, but this engineering, has that already been done for Russell Street?
No.
Okay, so this is the engineering to do things like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Plus, when we met with Jimmy Clyde, you know, he was talking about his roof leaking. You know, it might be that if the light department won't come in and, you know, if it's a significant fix, we might have to have engineering services done to look at that.
Yep.
Any questions on the list?
I have some, but I'm going to ask Bonnie later on.
All right. Joe did give me a list. He wants me to just go over some of the things we did this year.
Okay.
We completed 7 projects: the Shaker Lane paving and drainage, Shaker Lane 7 univents, crack sealing at the high school, seal coating at the police station, resurfacing of the tennis courts. That came out very nicely.
At Town Hall, Shattuck Street?
Yeah. 300 King Street basketball courts and site work, and the library roof replacement. Projects that are currently underway, the COA kitchen, that just got underway.
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
I haven't seen
Do we
anybody
get a
down
permit for it? This is the big
We
question.
do. We have a permit.
They have the permit, and we couldn't hear ourselves think.
Oh, when
The
they said
day they
jackhammering.
started- The jackhammering of the project started.
Yeah.
Who's the contractor?
Joe Blow.
Just somebody from somewhere?
Somebody.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
The name escapes me.
Somebody low bidder or something.
Well, it was still a high number.
Yeah.
Low bid, high
The
number.
lowest-
Awfully nice
the
kitchen.
lowest
for that
high
kind
bid
of
we got.
Six-figure kitchen, that's
Yeah.
really nice.
The fuel station at the highway department, and is that contract come back?
I'm sorry, thanks.
The highway
Fuel
department?
facility.
Not yet, it's on its way back, though. I've heard that they signed it.
Rooftop units at the town hall, bids were received last week. There'll be a meeting next week to kind of kick off that project. High school roof repairs, this is roof repairs at the entrance due to snow damage, or damage during the snowstorm, shoveling off the snow. That was supposed to finish up yesterday. I don't know whether it did or not, so. And then, not on my list, but on my mind is a track repair. I'm not quite sure where we are with that.
Track repair.
Crack repair.
Track?
Track.
Track repair. Well, I didn't know there was an issue.
There's a crack around the perimeter of the track
Huh.
where the surface,
Some cracks already in the surface of the,
well, those are like spalls. That's a different issue.
Recall something about a maintenance fundraising fund.
But anyway, the contractor was supposed to come back and take care of that crack between the surface and the outer asphalt. Whether he has or not, I don't know. And then those spall areas, they did come out and take a look. They acknowledged that there was a problem, and they said that they were going to fix it. But where we stand with that right now, I don't know.
How old is the track now? 3 years old?
It's 2011.
Who's supposed to chase that contractor, PMBC or?
We are.
Okay.
Yeah. Whether or not we're not supposed to, but we are. Yeah. Joe's been in contact.
Oh, send Joe out.
Watch out.
He's in a bad mood. Yeah.
Other projects that we're working on, Long Store, which is kind of under review by the Historic Commission, and the library renovations. 2 of us sit on their committee, and we're very much involved in that process.
You and who is the other representative?
Bob Romley.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So you're feeling pretty, I mean, so you're going through that list we got from the study originally, and you kind of sanitize it then based on what that thing says and what you see, and this is what we're seeing here?
Yes. Yeah.
I just have one request, Steve. And, you know, the first year we got that report, we had a little working group.
Yeah.
I'd like to get back into that working group. I know that last year, there was more PMBC taking hold of that, but I thought having the schools at the table, Board of Selectmen, PMBC, and I don't know if anybody from the Finance Committee was there. Finance Committee was there. You know, that was very helpful. We need to get back to that, I believe.
It was very helpful. If I recall, it took place after this kind of a budget review, so we certainly can...
Let's reconvene it.
We can certainly do
Sure.
that.
Because
It was very helpful.
On top of this, there's the 400,000 for the stands, which were
On there.
on that list.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, if you're looking at PMBC, there's another 400,000, potentially another $400,000 project here. So-
But it was a good working group.
Yeah.
You know, some
Yeah,
good,
go through it.
good conversation.
It was.
That's all I got.
All right?
Okay.
Very
Very
good.
good, thanks, Steve.
Steve.
Right, now,
It's easy when you're out. It sounds so easy.
let's
You
go.
put me and Bonnie on last in the hopes that we could fill in.
Right, I know, huh?
No, please, no, we'll take Bonnie, you can sit right there, all right?
You can start packing up.
We're good, thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Tell us where to start. At the beginning.
Oh, now you think he can leave just
That's
because you're
right,
done
that's right. Got
driving.
his 10 minutes of fame, and he's out of here.
Yeah, you best get going.
Say hello to Joy.
Right.
I will.
Okay, so you're going to go to tab 3.
Tab 3.
Our department budget, I'm going to cover accounting, assessing, and collections today. Steve Venuti's going to come in shortly and cover treasurer and OPEB separately. But our budget is very simple this year. We're not looking for any staffing increases. So basically, we have a level staffing budget presented to you. In the accounting office, it's myself and primarily my part-time, almost full-time assistant. She's 30 hours a week. There is another 10 hours of the payroll and finance coordinator's hours covered, and a clerical position for filing. So again, no staffing changes there. We've incorporated any step increases that are due. And the overall increase is 0.83% based on our staffing. So under accounting, there are no changes. The next department is the collector's office.
Excuse me, Bonnie,
Yes.
the one item that every once in a while is a swing item is the property and liability insurance sometimes spikes and sometimes
Yeah,
falls off.
this year
Deal.
it seems stabilized this year. We did experience an increase if you look from 14 to 15,
Yep.
but that appears to have stabilized through this
Stabilized,
year.
great.
So, and we're doing some proactive things to try and manage our claims
Good.
and damages, so.
Have you put it out to bid recently, or do you do?
I'm going to put it out for this coming spring, just because I
Just to
think
test
it
the
makes,
market.
yeah, it makes them sharpen their pencils and,
Right.
you know, it's everybody in the same field.
Should do that with engineering, too.
I would agree. I could do that.
Yeah, it's been about 5 years
Yeah,
since we've been.
yeah,
Yeah,
do that.
30, so.
So to go to the collector's office, Debbie Richards is our new collector for this past year. She's been doing a great job. She comes to us from the school department, and I'm extremely happy with the transition. So the only thing that we're doing here is the same number of hours. It's a full-time position. Also incorporated in the office is a part-time clerk, 15 hours a week, which is shared with the town clerk, and she funds 15 hours a week in that position also. So any step increases have been incorporated. Like I said, we're not looking for any changes here. In the only thing on the expense is the postage has gone up, and you can see in fiscal 15, we spent almost $11,000 in postage because postage costs increase. We have more excise bills to mail. If we don't mail the bills, we don't get the funding back, so.
And that expense, I've noticed it on, it's a common thing, right? And I just wonder, is there any way to, I have no idea how, but reduce mailing expenses? Because like, if you think about a personal thing, like paying bills, you don't have to pay for stamps for that anymore, right? In DC, you do that for you for free. So how do you like put all of this expenses together and like negotiate to get cheaper postage? It won't work.
Yeah,
No.
it is what it is.
Can we hand deliver things?
We have to mail them out. And we have like what's called a certification that we've actually mailed the bill, so that if somebody says, I didn't get my bill,
Then you can.
we have a certification that says that we mailed it. So that's the only change there.
It's IT, we're just not very good.
So for the next department is the assessors. And there is a change that I've requested there. Not in staffing. Staffing, we have transitioned over to our new assessor from Ken Mildren, who was here and retired about 1.5 years ago. Kathy Miller has been doing a great job managing. We're in the middle of a reval, or at the end of our reval year, which is always a major process for the department. And basically what that means is we go out, we inspect all of the properties, we look at the sales data, we make sure that the valuations are what they are. It's not to generate new money, it's to make sure that we have an equitable distribution of the tax levy. So the Board of Selectmen, decides what that shift is, and we allocate it through the assessor's office to each parcel. The levy's a levy. If the values go up, it doesn't matter. The levy's the levy. What we spend is what we spend. It just gets parceled out among the properties.
Values go up, our taxes go up.
If the values go up, the rate goes down.
The rate goes down.
The rate goes down.
Right.
But
Vice
your bill
versa.
goes up. Yes, that's not to say that your bill would go down.
Always up.
Yeah.
Value goes down, tax rate goes up.
So that's a big process to go through, and we're at the end of it. I'm hoping that we'll have our values certified Monday, and we'll be able to go forward with that. So what we're looking for in a change in this department, in the mission budget, is to look to have, as part of our annual budget, some consulting services for personal property valuation. That would total about $7,000 a year. The reason that we're asking that is we had an article for consulting services for this reval year, and we did farm out the personal property to another company, RCI. And in doing that, we were able to gain a lot of insight into the depreciation schedules on personal property that we have. These companies have expertise in assessing valuation and depreciation schedules on all sorts of personal property equipment. We have a lot of new businesses coming into town. Personal property incorporates things like refrigeration equipment at the grocery store, equipment that businesses might have on hand that we don't have the expertise in. We don't know what those values are and what they should be depreciated at. We also have a lot of commercial properties coming on that Kathy has to spend a lot of time going out and really getting the values and getting the sales data and collecting that. So by spending her time in that area, she has less time to spend on the personal property, which is volume compared to valuation. So it ends up being a big value, but it's a lot of work going out day to day. So $7,000 is kind of short money to do this. In the last fiscal year, the personal property increase was over $500,000 in new growth. I mean, that's just to give you an idea of what that does. So to spend $7,000 to have the new growth captured properly and the valuations and the depreciation schedules captured properly is huge. Because if the value is not distributed among the commercial, industrial, and personal property, it lands on the residential class. So it needs to be equitable. It needs to be something that's defendable and proper. The company that we used this year, they defend their property values at ATB or Appellate Tax Board. So if something's challenged, they'll defend it for us. It's part of their contract. So that would be something that I would ask going forward, where we have a lot of this type of activity coming online. Other than that, there's no staffing changes. We have a chief assessor and 2 assessment analysts. We're not looking to change any of the staffing levels there. They do a great job. They're very busy. They work very well with the collector. I have to say it's a really good harmony in the department. So we're pleased how things are running, but it's very busy. And I have no capital requests because it's not really.
I have a question. In your narrative summary for Assessor's Department, second page, I lost it. Oh, no, it's the first page. You're talking about the office being responsible for deferral programs and abatements and exemptions. And you said including those administered within the Community Preservation Act surcharge program? What is that?
So basically, anything that either gets assessed or abated has to go through the assessor's office. So if there's a valuation abatement, it also goes down, drills down into the CPA. So they have to make sure that whenever they do that, they abate not just the property tax, but the CPA tax.
The
that might
CPA.
come.
CPA is a surcharge on the
Surcharge.
Yeah, okay, because one is based on the other.
Correct.
Gotcha. You just stick those things in there just to make us wonder what the hell it is.
Anything else?
You talked about 3 different departments. You didn't ask for any increased hours. That's almost like un-American.
I could. We're holding steady so far. I mean, we're fortunate with the group that we have. I'm very, very lucky.
She has to justify everybody else's increases.
Yeah.
So she's just cutting down on her workload.
Yeah.
More work, less pay.
All right, where's Steve? You'll have to come back another day. Yep. He's got 30 seconds. One in line and one Joe.
I opened yours, so.
You do the selectmen, TA, legal. No staffing level increases for our department, one town administrator and one executive assistant. And we are proposing to level fund legal services at $250,000, which is a higher amount than we've had in prior years, but it's not as much as we spent last year, which inexplicably was only $215,000, go figure. But, so we're in the...
And the run rate this year is looking...
Yeah, I mean, we're in the happy circumstance that the budget that we're appropriating at town meeting, it does not look like it is in danger of being overspent, so, which reverses the pattern we were on, where we were underfunding.
Good trend to reverse.
And always, catching up.
Yep.
So, any questions?
Another great year.
Another great year.
And here's Steve.
Come on up, Steve. Let's go.
There you go.
Don't get comfortable there.
You guys aren't in a hurry, are
You're the last. How's that? Just know that, you're the last.
You're the last.
Yeah, know that you're the last
That was
holding us
done for a
up.
reason.
Last but not least.
That was done for a reason. Yeah, the last reason, no.
I don't know, it's not that logical.
Okay.
Come on. 20. I guess it is. Okay. It is that one.
Look at that.
Those are 21 to 22.
Stop the television audience. Yep.
Steve Venuti, Town Treasurer.
What are your questions?
Well, I take no offense in being last, even though the treasurer's budget is the second largest town budget behind the school department. So, this,
Because you pay a lot of bills.
that's true, I pay them all. The treasurer's operating budget, the actual expenses, and we're looking for $100 in postage. I was behind in postage a couple of years ago, behind again this year. I'm sure Bonnie's come up with ways to fund my postage shortfall over the years, but we're looking for $100 there.
We discussed drones will be delivering now.
Okay.
Sort of.
I think when you look at the budget, it's more of what's not there that was there in the past. If you look back 5 or 6 years ago in the treasurer's budget, we were like at $11,000, $12,000 in expenses. So this has come down tremendously. And the biggest part of it coming down was envelopes. I hated buying envelopes.
You did, I can attest to that. You would collect.
We had a weekly payroll, and we would print off everybody's check stubs. Get a senior to stuff them in an envelope. And we were getting 5 or 6 different orders of envelopes a year at thousands of dollars. So it was just incredible. So we went to and emailed check stub, get that off there.
Absolutely.
We only print off 24 actual checks every 2 weeks now for employees. We probably print maybe 50 or so stubs now for people who don't want to switch to emails. So little by little, we're getting them. We put a push on every year at open enrollment to get a few more people to come over. But that was a big savings for us.
Require the
That
new
was-
people to just be automatic, to be
We
electronic?
certainly do,
Okay.
yep. Anybody who's walked in the door for the past 3 years is direct deposit and email.
Not a choice.
Done, sir.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
The other thing that we've done is we're trying to build as much efficiencies as possible in not only the Treasurer's Department, but all the areas that report into Bonnie. So we've, over the past couple of years, and I hope you all take advantage of it, the online tax payments, we've implemented that, excise tax, property tax, real estate tax. We have the school department online for their tuition bills for their kindergarten and pre-K classes, athletic fees. They'd probably do about $50,000 a month in online payments. The tax collector in November and December, October and November for this past tax bill. Out of the 6 million or so that we collected, half of it was electronic. So we're making great strides in doing that.
That's a lot of savings, right?
It's a
With the
lot.
processing
And
all
it's
that
a
stuff,
lot
and-
of process.
Yeah.
What the tax collector does is she gets the payment in, she sits there, and she has to key in bill by bill. So on this next tax bill that you'll be getting February 1st, that we're mailing out at the end of December, there's going to be a scan line at the bottom of it. And what we're working on now, and it's in the final process of being tested now, is she'll be scanning in the check and the bill. So it's going to automatically deposit the check, something that we've been doing in the treasurer's office for the past 8 years or so. And it's also going to create a file for her to upload directly into the software. So she's not sitting there keying in things and, making keying mistakes and having to go back and research and correct and things. So it's going to be a nice little efficiency that we're building in. And little by little, those are the types of things that
You're getting a check reader, and it cancels out the check, and you just give it back.
we
to
already
the person.
have those in our office, but we're going to install them on the tax collector's desk, and it's actually going to create a file for her to upload. So not only is it going to deposit, but it's going to upload right into the tax system.
What do you do with the canceled check?
We store them for a year down in the basement, and then we shred them. Like I said, we've been doing that for a while. So, and that's the treasurer's budget and a little overview of some of the efficiencies that we're trying. Moving down to employee benefits, the big thing that's going to happen this year that we're working on now is ACA, the Affordable Care Act. And
Well,
that is a bear. Yeah, and you would know, Tom.
that's affordable. There's nothing affordable.
There's nothing affordable. It's a nice little business that's being developed for different companies in tracking this. What we need to do is track every hour that every employee is working. From the people who work 40 hours a week down to the seniors that volunteer because they are essentially employees and they work 40 hours a year. We need to track their hours. And anybody who's working more than 30 hours on average each week, we have to offer them health insurance. Now, municipalities are a little better off because right now 32B says 20 hours a week we have to offer. But we never track like substitute teachers. So the school department hires a substitute and they're an employee, but they may not be working. They may not work for a month. Then all of a sudden, they're filling in for a teacher that's out on maternity, and they're putting in full weeks. And we never went back and says, well, they're working more than 20 hours on average, according to Mass State law, to offer them insurance, now all of a sudden, we will be fined by the federal government if we don't, and they're working 30 hours. So I don't think,
Obamacare bites again.
don't think we're going to be affected too much, if at all, with this, but it's something that needs to be tracked. So we have a software vendor that we're working with. Our payroll company has kind of left
Yeah, why
us
would they do
high
it
and
from
dry.
They're
not
Who's your payroll?
SoftWrite. Yeah.
So Steve,
They're
is
more
it
of a payroll, just pure payroll company. They're not HRIS system. They don't keep historical data or anything.
Steve,
Yes.
30 hours or 20 hours where we're going to have to offer?
ACA is 30 hours. Mass State law is 20.
But what are we following here that we have to monitor? Is it both, or is it the lower of the two?
No, it's 30.
It's 30.
Yeah.
It's
We can be
30 for
fined.
ACA, but if they're consistent, I think 32B talks about consistency. So if they're
Okay.
consistently working over 20, we would have to do it.
So
There's no
not
real
average-
definition of
It's not
consistency.
average versus, it's average versus consistently. So if someone works 20 hours
ACA is
for 4
pretty
months,
cut and
but then
dry.
the rest of the year they don't work, is that considered?
That's not consistent.
That's not
ACA,
consistent.
it would be.
It would be.
Yeah.
But ACA works on 30 hours, not
30
20.
hours.
So really, the number's 30 hours.
Yes.
So if somebody's working more than 15, call it 1,560 hours a year, we're going to have to offer them benefits.
The actual thing is 130 hours a month is what they're going by.
But they go by month, so they average it. So anytime you have a substitute teacher that comes in, someone who's out on long-term, whether it's maternity leave or whatever, we're going to have to offer them benefits.
But is it for a year or just for the months that they work? How does that?
So that there's a measurement period, and then there's what's called a stability period. So you measure a new employee
Yeah.
over a 12-month period,
Yeah.
unless you find that in a 3-month period, they've worked over 30 hours a week, then you have to immediately offer them. But on average, you can wait the year, and then in the following year, in their stability period, you have to offer them insurance. Now, during that stability period, they may not even be working, but they have to be offered insurance for that period. At that same time they're in stability, they're also in another measurement period for the next year. So, and your stability period has to be the same number of months as your measurement period.
It's $3,000 per.
Yeah, and there's a fine if the government finds that we should be offering somebody insurance that we haven't, there's a fine involved.
1,200 hours a year.
You just have to offer it. They may not accept it.
Well, that's
either,
true.
Right.
That's the way-
You have to offer, and you have to show that you offered. And one of the other things that we have to do this coming January is mail out, and you'll be getting one from your employers, a 1094 and a 1095 IRS form, which says that we offered you health insurance, and the number of months that we offered you health insurance for. That's, yes, that's extra postage.
More postage and envelope.
And for some reason, we can't hand out these forms like we do with a W-2. They have to be mailed. So, I don't know why. I don't have a reason for that. Exactly. So that's ACA. That's, rest of the benefits, we have an increase in health insurance worked in here. We won't have the actual rates for health insurance until probably February timeframe, February, March. Last year, we had a 12% increase. Our claim history is getting high. We're stuck with that claim history over a rolling 15-month period, so it's going to hurt us for a few months, so. And it'll affect this year's rates also. It affected last year's rates. Plus just the rising cost of prescriptions, and we're going to get hit. As far as pension payments with the retirement system, I'm on the advisory committee at Middlesex. What we've we have in place a plan to be fully funded by 2033 or some year out there. There's going to be a 4.5% increase each year as long as we make the investment returns that we're pegged at. If not, then that 4.5 is going to have to increase at some point, but we have to be fully funded by 2035, I think, total.
Steve, are there any municipalities that are phasing out pensions? Meaning not eliminating for existing employees, but new hires? Is there any of that going on out there anywhere?
Not in Massachusetts.
Not in Massachusetts.
The law requires us to.
It's maybe, what is it, 11% that they have to set aside?
Yeah.
Good reason to get a public sector job in Massachusetts.
Yes.
I know.
Really?
Any questions on benefits or anything?
Just the longevity thing, I saw that in here, is that just that's in the town contracts with people, they've been here a long time, they go,
It's the longevity payments that are distributed under the personnel bylaw employees. So it's based on however many years they have but it starts at 5 years.
Debt service is pretty self-explanatory. We've really worked to minimize the number of bonds we've been issuing. What our plan has been between Bonnie and I is to, as needs come around to borrow for certain things, we've been paying them off little by little as bond anticipation notes, so we're rolling those over while short-term rates are low, take advantage of them. So within that 5-year period that we're allowed to roll issues over, we've been paying them off, and that's been our plan with, we did the track, we did the septic system, Foster Septic that way. We're going to plan on doing the roadway bands that we just did that way. So it's saving the town interest costs and issuance costs and things like that, so.
Doing a fine job there.
Well, we can do it while interest rates are low, we're going to take advantage of it.
okay.
The other thing, you're not getting off that easy. The other thing, and Bonnie had forgotten to put this in your books, but the selectmen wanted this covered in today's meeting. Was our OPEB valuation
Done that
reports.
No, I forget.
So our valuation reports, we're required by the accounting standards to do a valuation report each 2 years, every 2 years. It's an actuarial study of the employees and our commitments moving forward as far as health insurance goes. One of the good things that we had this year is our discount rate went up from 4.5% to 5.5%. That was a big, when we get into some of the numbers, that was a big assist to us as far as some of these large numbers that you'll see in the next couple of pages here.
What drives that? Okay,
What
right here, yeah.
drove that was number one, the returns we've been getting on our funds that we've set aside, and the consistency that we've been putting those funds aside. The actuary mentioned the fact that we have a policy that says what we're going to put aside, that we've held to that policy. So because of that, she's actually worked some of those contributions into her projections moving forward, that those numbers will be consistent.
Excellent.
Which has brought down some of these numbers that we'll see. The town, and this report is dated July 1st, 14. It's actually done June 30th of 15. That's just the timing of how things work. But in FY 14, We contributed 52.1% of our costs that we should have. The Light Department, which gets a separate study done because they have different accounting years, contributed 154% of their cost. So with that rate, the Light Department won't have to actually fund any additional monies into OPEB within the next 3 years or so. They've been doing $250,000 per year. So they'll basically be fully funded in 3 years. The town at 52% has come a long way. That number was a lot lower in the last report that we've seen, so we're doing really good in putting that money aside, especially the earnings that we're getting. We're over $800,000 in total return on the money we set aside on that, so that's like an extra years that we've picked up on contributions there. Where the discount rate really comes in handy, if you go to page 2 on that, we'll just quickly look at some of the numbers. And again, these numbers are big. They'd be a lot bigger if we weren't doing the things that we're doing. So it's helping. I can tell you we're in a lot better shape as far as what we're doing than a lot of other towns surrounding us, which is to our credit. So the actuarial liability, you can see that that's the first big number there, $35 million. That is what we should have set aside for every current employee for retirement on an actuarial basis, discounted back to today. That number, last report, so 2 years ago when we read this, it was at $38 million, with a projection over that last column of $43 million, almost $44 million, where we would have been at this report. So that number has come down tremendously because of that discount rate. The next number is the unfunded, so it's basically the assets, less the assets that we have set aside already for this. Should have been 40 at this point in time, we're down to $31 million. To put this in perspective, the health insurance piece of it, on the pension side, our accrued liability is $39 million. Our unfunded is only 18. So we're paying a lot more into the system with a definite end game on the pension side. Not really an end game on this that we can see moving forward unless we start contributing a lot more than what we have. A little further down, you see net OPEB obligation, $14.6 million. That's basically the money that we're behind in our contributions. So if you go back to our oldest employee who's been here the longest, what we should have had set aside for him or her into retirement already, and you add it all that up, less what we've set aside in our funds, we're short $14 million.
So
It
sorry,
should have been,
Yeah, go
it
ahead.
should have been 17 at this point in time. Now the projection for 2 years from now is 17, so we've kind of picked up 2 years' worth of costs in there because of that discount rate, because we're funding. So it's big numbers, but in reality, it's good news for the town.
So help me again, though.
Yes.
The unfunded liability versus the net OPEB obligation.
Unfunded liability is looking at current employees, projecting their pension, their health insurance payments out to retirement, discounting that back out to today.
Oh, okay. And this is based on today, what we actually owe. If
And
everybody
this
retired
is,
today.
and this is previous employees up to today, what should have been set aside.
The net one is that. Okay. So the 31 includes the 14, though?
Yes.
Okay.
Steve, it looks though, and I could be reading this wrong, though, the last 3 lines on the page suggest that even for all our efforts, the target's getting farther away. If it's going from 14 to 29 million. I mean, you know, the good news is it could have been 43 million, but we're still losing ground, just not losing ground as fast.
I think that points to two things that everybody needs to be wary of is, number one, we hire employees, they all carry costs. And you control part of the town, but the school department has the most employees. School department, of the $35 million in accrued liability, $20 million of that has to do with school employees. They do hire employees. So there are employees coming into the system. You can see the 17 new employees, 11 new retirees, and 7 new covered spouses since the last report. That's net. So we are picking up employees. Second thing that talks to Paul,
Where are those figures, Steve, that you just talked about?
right at the top of
Oh,
that
okay,
little
gotcha,
chart.
right, yeah.
So the other thing that we need to be wary of is healthcare costs. Not only for this reason, to control costs, but in 2 years, under the Affordable Care Act, there's the Cadillac tax that comes into effect. Cadillac tax says if a family plan total cost, not just the employee's cost, but the total cost is over $2,700 a month.
Well, 27.
$2,800 a month,
Yeah.
$2,700 a year, whatever, and a single plan is over $850 a month.
Yeah, 10,000 and change.
Then the employer has to pay a tax on every dollar for dollar
40% of the overage.
of the overage. Because basically,
Better plan year.
President Carson is going to.
All the more reason to make a change in 2016.
basically,
Just
the IRS says,
Just saying.
the IRS is saying that the employee is getting it, paying for their insurance pre-tax, the employer can deduct that from their taxes. We're going to put a limit to that, basically. Here's the threshold. We're going to give you a tax break on this. Anything over that, we're going to
Hit you.
tax you, basically.
The problem is the CBA won't, you know, the unions, it'll be tough to make those changes.
Well, we've been lucky here in town. We have a very good relationship through the IAC. We've made some minor changes. The selectmen did vote Chapter 22, 23.
We saved $250,000 a couple of years ago just doing plan design with our affected unions.
But that's something that we need to keep an eye on, because if we're hit with double-digit increases like we did last year, over the next 2 years, we're going to be affected by this. So we probably will be talking over the next couple of years of high deductible plans and changing to that.
After, everybody is.
Yep.
After. After. Steve, the retiree medical plan isn't self-insured though, is it? It's a fully insured plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're just funding what the town's obligation is to pay for those premiums?
Yes.
So if it was self-insured, those numbers would be.
Well, we shifted to a premium-based, what's that, 5, 6 years ago?
4 or 5?
No, so it's probably 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Only because our experience was so bad that we couldn't get it.
When Maya came in.
Yep.
Which really dramatically helped that, these numbers.
Oh, absolutely.
Believe it or not,
Yes.
these numbers would have been in the
Yes.
scary.
It's a lot better to be part of a group than not.
Right,
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Steve.
Do you want to
Thanks
stay and
for all
talk
that
longer,
great
or hang out a
news.
little
Yeah,
longer, guys?
Okay, good. We're
All right, do we
adjourned.
need to make a motion? or-
Motion.
I
Adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hey, here, here. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
say it every year, but it's worth saying.